Hi, this is Kevin Baumer, CML Deputy Director. It's February 22nd, and you are watching this week's version of the CML Statehouse Report. I am going to talk about a couple of items today and rattle off some bill numbers. The first one is employment. A lot of employment issues in the Statehouse this year, or there's a couple now, there will be even more. Senate Bill 85 is legislation, the Equal Pay for Equal Work Act, that would address wage discrimination based on gender. The bill as introduced had a lot of issues. We partnered with the business community, the private sector, to identify those issues and to help suggest amendments. 8 out of 10 issues that were identified by employers were addressed when Senate Bill 85 was heard in committee the other day. We're not quite ready to move to a monitor position. Still want to address a couple of the issues remaining, but we're very close, and really appreciate the sponsors and the other employer groups that have worked with the sponsors, and particularly Senator Pete Lee, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, for keeping that moving along. Legislation that has not been introduced yet, but I want to start to put on folks' radar screen because there's awareness of it. Family and medical leave insurance, which would be a state of Colorado version of the Family and Medical Leave Act. We don't have a final version of how this bill will look when it's introduced, so I want to be a little bit careful as to how much detail I go into, but we do expect that it will be applicable, unlike the Family and Medical Leave Act, to all employers in the state and cover all employees regardless of the size of the employer. And then obviously as a wage replacement will actually provide revenue. Where does that revenue come from, the wage replacement? Right now it looks as though the bill will be introduced with an employer and an employee contribution into an enterprise program to pay, at the Department of Labor and Employment that will fund the wage replacement. That employer contribution has got our concerns, and we've registered those with the sponsors because technically that is a state unfunded mandate and is going to be a fiscal issue. There's a lot to ground to cover, so we'll see what the introduced version looks like and continue to work with the sponsors who've been great about including us. There's a lot of discussion. We expect legislation very soon on minimum wage, and specifically the authority of municipalities and counties to establish a local minimum wage. Those discussions are still ongoing and the legislation is not finalized. When it is, then we'll have a lot more to say about that, but I will say that our policy committee and our board have recommended that we have staff discretion to support legislation if it is purely a local option and doesn't have a lot of strings attached, and so we'll see how that looks when it gets introduced. Moving on to open meetings, House Bill 1087 continues to be laid over. It was again this week because we're still working with sponsors. We thought we had agreement on this bill, which as introduced would be an unfunded mandate on local governments requiring online publication in addition to the regular posted requirements, online publication of meeting agendas that should be searchable, etc. We finally, as of today, have an agreement with the sponsors on language that removes the mandate and provides a strong incentive for municipalities and special districts and counties to have their meeting notices online. The incentive is that if they're done online, then the requirement to do a physical posting would go away. That bill will not be heard now until like March 7th, so we'll have plenty of time to make sure that the language is correct. Last, I'll talk about sales tax because the bills that have been introduced, one is Senate Bill 6 dealing with the RFP for a single-wide point of remittance, or single statewide point of remittance. That is going to be on the governor's desk soon. It's parked in House Appropriations right now. But the other two bills that have been introduced were dead. One, Senate Bill 130, CML opposed. It was an unnecessary and somewhat gratuitous infringement into home rule authority and didn't really deal with post-Wayfair issues. But the other was one that we supported. That was Senate Bill 131 that would have created a de minimis standard under which small businesses wouldn't have to collect and remit sales tax through their state license for statutory entities outside of their own jurisdiction. We supported the legislation because as a de minimis standard, it actually would help small businesses in our communities, but the bill was defeated under the promise that it was going to be a component of a larger, more comprehensive bill, which we have yet to see. and so that remains to be seen when that bill will be put together, if it includes de minimis, and what other components it might have that we either like or don't like. So stay tuned for that.
Hello, this is Morgan Cullen. We've got a big week up ahead of us, several bills that we've taken positions on that we will be addressing down at the State House on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. The first bill is House Bill 1143. This is also the straws upon request bill. It requires a restaurant owner to not just give straws out, but they only give straws out to patrons that actually request a straw with their beverage. The issue that we have is there's a local government preemption in there, and many of our communities would like to be more restrictive. There's a number of exemptions within the bill. Straw dispensers are exempted. Fast food drive-through windows and prepackaged food items are all exempted. And there's no enforcement mechanism in the bill at all. So the issue that we primarily have with the bill, and the reason that we will be posing the bill unless it's amended on Monday, really has to do with that local government preemption that would allow municipalities to be more restrictive on plastic straws if they choose to do so. So we will be keeping a close eye on that one on Monday in the House Energy and Environment Committee. On Tuesday, at least on the calendar, and this is also a bill that we're tracking closely in our Statehouse Report, is Senate Bill 34. This is also another plastic sustainability issue, and it has to do with the use of polystyrene for food, takeout food containers at restaurants. This is a bill that's been put forward by Environment Colorado and the Colorado Restaurant Association. And it looks like there's going to be some substantial changes to the bill. And I've spoken with the bill sponsor, and he plans to actually postpone that bill on Tuesday. So even though it's on the calendar right now, is up on Tuesday, that will be postponed until a later date. Until the proponents of the bill can kind of work out some of the issues that they have. So while we're on the topic of a couple of the sustainability bills this week or next that are going to be coming up next week that have to deal with plastics, I thought I'd provide just a general overview of CML's position regarding this issue. As you probably are aware, there is under existing Colorado statute, statute 25-17-104, there's an existing state preemption on the prohibition of plastic products. This is an issue for CML. It was a statute or a law that was passed back in 1993. And it's really become more of an issue as city councils across the state are hearing from their constituents regarding the environmental cost of these single-use plastic products that are being added to the waste stream. And we have kind of heard from our policy committee, received a recommendation from them to ask the CML Executive Board for CML-initiated legislation dealing with a full repeal of this preemption in state statute. So that's really kind of the way we are looking, the prism that we are looking at a lot of these sustainability issues this year. Is really the end goal of getting that preemption language removed from state statute. CML will continue to look at at other issues as well and statewide standards if and when they are appropriate. But the beginning and the end of the conversation really has to deal with removing this preemption requirement so that all local governments will have the ability to respond to the needs of their constituents in a manner that's consistent with their long-term goals and values. And then finally, on Wednesday is House Bill 1157. This is a bill that would modify the specific ownership tax, commonly referred to as the SOT. The SOT is a tax in lieu of a property tax imposed on motor vehicles It's paid by the owner of a motor vehicle every time they pay their annual registration. The money is collected by the counties, and then it's dispersed out to the political subdivisions within the county, including municipalities and school districts. We have an issue with this bill, and we will be opposing it on Wednesday because it modifies what has always historically been a local tax and really changes it into a fee-for-service structure. The money, by expanding the rates, the additional money or revenue collected would actually go back to the state and local governments to be used specifically for transportation purposes. So we have an issue with making a fundamental change from what is right now a tax, money that's collected and used to help provide revenue to the general funds of local governments, into a fee that would provide transportation funding for the state, and also really just changing what has historically been a tax into a fee. So we have some issues with that. Also, we have some constitutional issues with the bill as well. Article 10, Section 6 of the Colorado State Constitution specifically mandates that the revenue generated from the SOT tax has to go back to the political subdivisions of the state. And so we believe this bill to be clearly unconstitutional.
Hi, this is Megan Dollar, Legislative and Policy Advocate with the Colorado Municipal League. I'm going to talk about 3 bills I was following this week, all within the realm of criminal justice. The first one is one that I've talked about in previous videos, House Bill 1119, that had to do with coming up with a process for releasing internal affairs investigation records. Initially, CML was opposed to the introduced version of the bill. However, in committee, a strike below amendment, or an amendment that replaced the entire bill, was adopted, and now the bill allows local governments to redact a lot more information and is applicable to internal affairs investigations that actually happen after the adoption of this bill. There are some other things in the bill that CML is supportive of, and so now that the amendment has been adopted on the bill, CML has removed its opposition. The next piece of legislation that I want to talk about is House Bill 1099. What this bill did was prohibit the use of red light cameras and photo radar, also known as speed radar vans, within municipalities. We have opposed this bill in the past, as it's come up in the past several sessions. This bill was heard in committee in the Transportation and Local Government Committee this week. We had several municipalities come to testify in opposition, as this was, or should be, a local decision, as it is of local traffic concerns. The bill was ultimately defeated on an 8-3 vote and postponed indefinitely. The third piece of legislation I want to discuss is House Bill 1177. That bill was heard in the House Judiciary Committee on February 21st. What this bill does is create a process for extreme risk protection orders. What this would do is allow a household family member or a member of law enforcement to petition the court to remove someone's firearms from them if they are deemed a danger to themselves or to others. CML is supportive of this legislation and are following the footsteps of many in the law enforcement community, because we believe that this is a public safety issue. The bill was heavily debated in committee. Ultimately, it did pass on a party line vote.
Hi everyone, Brandy DeLange here with some new legislation to go over and some coming legislation that we'll see here shortly. So let's begin. House Bill 1191 was recently introduced, and what this legislation will do is allow ag operations to establish either a permanent or temporary farm stand on any size of land. So this could be, you know, a very small piece of acreage or anything that goes beyond 3 acres. So essentially, it creates a preemption on a local government's land use authority. We've had some ongoing conversations with the bill sponsor, and we are trying to address those concerns. It sounds in particular like this is stemming from one local government, so I think we might actually be able to find a solution here as we have those conversations with Representative Arndt. I'll keep everybody updated as this moves forward. The second piece is coming legislation that's not yet been introduced. If you've been following along in the media, you'll know that an oil and gas bill is coming and will focus fairly heavily upon kind of 4 key areas, which the big one for us is obviously local control. CML has been having quite a few conversations with Speaker Becker in the House and Majority Leader Fenberg in the Senate, and are continuing to advocate for a reasonable expansion of local control in our land use authority. As soon as this bill is introduced, we'll keep you guys updated and let you know what the legislation truly looks like, though be prepared to see it move fairly quickly. I think this is one of those things that folks will have to kind of pay real close attention to, because if you blink, you might miss it. So stay tuned and we'll keep you updated.
We expect March and April to be heavy hitters in terms of the legislation that's going to be introduced, and particularly potential municipal impacts. Certainly the sort of slow start to the session is really going to accelerate in March and April. So stay tuned and we'll catch you then. Thanks.